Okay, so we are talking about finding our voice, saying yes to ourselves, starting to thrive instead of just surviving. So we are taking that step forward. We are saying, yes, I have a voice. I want to feel heard. And we're prepared. We've gone through the motions. We know what we're going to say. And then we sit down with somebody and their response is not what we expected, very invalidating, and could also be gaslighting. So I am here with Paige Sparrow, clinical social worker. She helps you feel comfortable with your feelings because life does not come with a manual, and sometimes emotions come up. We've got stuff from our past, stuff going on now, and she helps you work through that. So you are helping us work through our feelings when I say, I'm ready to have a voice. I'm ready to say something. I really need to advocate for myself. And then I show up, and this person that I really care about, or maybe it's a colleague, or maybe it's a boss, or maybe it's the neighbor, whoever is
Yeah.
not responding how I want. So let's go with the first thing would be it's somebody you care about. So it's a best friend, it's a partner, it's a sister, it's a brother, mother, somebody that you care about that you're saying, this relationship hasn't been going well. I've just been nodding my head and saying, yes, resentment is building. Now I'm coming to you, and your response is, "Ah, don't worry about it. Oh, you're fine. No, that never happened. I would never do that. I love you."
Yeah, thank you. And hi, everybody. So I really think what you had said previously was really important about you going and talking to someone. So in this case, someone that you love and care about, and they're saying something back to you that you didn't expect. So I think you can do all this amazing planning, like writing down, knowing exactly what you're going to say. You've done like some grounding and some breathing. You feel really like good to have this conversation, and they can just blow it out of the water. We actually have like no control about what the other person is going to say. So I think it's important to think about like, okay, I have said what I wanted to say. I have maintained my self-respect in this conversation because I know I've gotten out the things that I wanted to say, and then we can't control how the other person is going to come at us. So just knowing that going in, I think is like a nice first step.
So you're saying be prepared, understand that you cannot control other people, you can only control how you respond.
Yeah.
And that disappointment, then you're going to have to then deal with that disappointment. Would you say that, well, this is done, this conversation didn't go well? Would you try it again? What do you do in those situations, especially when it's a family member? How do you maneuver that? And sometimes it's reaching out to people like you to say, I'm stuck. This isn't, I'm really needing some help, and a social worker,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
So definitely something that I'd be able to help with. I think like reaching in and looking at your values. So in this case, it being like an important friend or a family member, is that a relationship that you really value? Is that a relationship that you want to maintain? And if that's the case, and if that's what your goal is in this conversation, then I think you would want to try to stay in it and see how you can make the conversation go further. Saying something like, I don't know if you got me. I don't know that I felt heard in that conversation. This is what I'm asking for. This is what I'd like from you. I like the idea of like a broken record. So using that and just repeating it and repeating it and repeating it can be helpful. Sometimes people need to hear things a few times. So if that conversation is important and you want to maintain that relationship, then I think figuring out ways to like stay in the conversation and make sure that you leave it feeling heard is important.
Wonderful. Because that is a big theme right now. Maybe it's just the people I'm following on social media, but setting boundaries is really a big theme, and actually not engaging with toxic people. And sometimes that's our family members. And
Yeah.
the way that it used to be was, well, it doesn't matter what your mother just said to you. She's your mother, and she gave birth to you. She took care of you. So you just love her no matter what. And I think a lot of us feel that guilt of, one, this is not the relationship I thought.
Yeah.
And how am I moving forward with this relationship? Because maybe it's just never going to be what I envisioned it to be. And I have to make peace with that and deal with that. But you're not necessarily lowering your expectations, you're just altering what this relationship would look like.
Yes. And I think that like if it is someone that you know to be a toxic relationship with you, regardless if that's a friend or a family member, because of course that can happen. I've worked with like lots of people around that. Like, what do I want this relationship to look like? What feels good for me? We talk about boundaries together, and then those boundaries are then communicated to that person. So if you've done kind of all your stuff up front and you're having a conversation with someone who might be family that's toxic and they are not reciprocating in a way that is good for you and that's making you feel terrible, it's making you feel stressed, it's making you feel angry or anxious, then I think that's totally appropriate to leave that conversation and to tell them like that you're not feeling heard, and to exit that conversation. So if maintaining that relationship is not important to you, or is just a difficult relationship, then I think your own self is more important in that conversation, and exiting.
Exactly. And I think that just goes back to that self-compassion, validating your emotion that you haven't done anything wrong, and that that person has their emotion, whatever they feel, it may change, it may not. So
Yeah.
whether it is someone that you're really close to, or, maybe it's a neighbor, or, somebody that you have to talk to, a teacher for your child's school or whatever, that it's not always going to go well, and that's okay. And I know for myself, I used to, I'm a justice person. Like, you're not hearing me. This isn't fair. That's not right. But everybody has their own perception as to what is right, what is fair, and how much energy am I going to put into this. And I used to waste a lot of energy. And my motto is like, shut up, none of your business, walk away. Because I used to throw somebody needs help. I'm at the hairdresser and I'm helping somebody, or I'm doing this. And it's like, is this what I need to be doing? How much energy do I need to put into that? But that is changing our cycle and changing who we are. And again, so many great resources out there like yourself. People are scared of reaching out because it's a weakness, or you have to be vulnerable. Somebody may judge you. And that's not why you got into this. You didn't get into social work to judge people. You got into social work to support them, to give them the tools, because this could be a very short interaction with you. And then you've got all these tools to move forward and live a life of thriving, and not just surviving in life, right?
Yeah. And I like that you said like of you being a helper, and that you would go and get into conversations at the hairdressers or whoever. And that can be like draining for you when you're always trying to do that. And something that has always been something difficult for me with communication has been over apologizing. So I think that's really important in these kinds of conversations where you're wanting to be heard, where you're wanting to set a boundary, just to pay attention, to be mindful of how much you're apologizing. Like sometimes apologies are so necessary and quite important. And sometimes like I'll be walking through a door and someone hits me and I'm like, oh, sorry. It's not at all my fault. So I think apologizing over and over and over again in a conversation takes that power away from you. Because the person thinks that like you feel like you're wrong in the situation, you have to keep apologizing. So I think that's something that I'm still working on, that I think is important in these kinds of conversations when you want your voice heard.
Absolutely. And it's going to take some time. It may not go so well, but if it doesn't go well, it doesn't mean you give up, right? You just say, let's tweak this, let's change this up. Or is this where I'm going to put my energy? I'm actually going to put my energy somewhere else. So again, so helpful, Paige. You just make this seem so easy, and sometimes it's not, but you
definitely not.
but you just make it sound like, okay, these are the steps. And I think a lot of us have these good intentions. We just don't know what's going on in our brain and how to make these actions happen. So you are giving us the action steps, how to plan. So this is amazing. Thank you so much. And we hope that you guys found this helpful. And reach out to Paige, reach out to me if you're looking for more support, because life doesn't come with a manual, and we are here to support you. Take care, guys.
Thank you.